Hello, welcome back. We are on tenet number 5 of 14 defining characteristics of fascism. Yesterday we discussed the supremacy of the military. Today we're going to talk about rampant sexism. The governments of fascist nations tend to be almost exclusively male-dominated. Under fascist regimes, traditional gender roles are made more rigid. Divorce, abortion, and homosexuality are suppressed, and the state is represented as the ultimate guardian of the family institution. So what do you guys think about that?
Does any of that happen in America ever?
Yeah. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that women have been discriminated against since the inception of this country. Like, that's been a thing, What's interesting is we've seen them make a lot of strides forward. Now, I'm not saying it's done by any means, in the last, 50 years. But what's going on now, it just kind of seems like we're starting to see all of that being pushed back.
Yeah, we've touched on it a little bit in previous episodes of this because it was just relevant. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing, like we were talking about a little while ago, these people now are like blatantly out there, like that guy at Google with the what did you call it, Gal? Pseudoscience?
Yes.
Yeah, saying women are inferior to men and all kinds of stuff. And like, yeah, just the hatred of women, the hatred of gay people, the hatred of all these different things based on gender or sex. And it's becoming popular. And the president himself, I mean, he said some really horrible sexist things in the past. And it makes, yeah. It's from the top all the way down, I think, right now. And it's been like that in our country. Like we've said before, women have come a long way forward, but nowhere near where they need to be for any kind of equality. But it seems like, especially right now, these people are trying to roll those rights right on back as much as they can. And like I said before and a few episodes ago, I've even seen online many people advocating for taking the right to vote away from women.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing going on, they use a little bit of there's a big thing that they fall back on, which is, the biological imperative, that men are designed for this certain thing and women are designed for this certain thing. And, that consequently means there's certain roles they're better suited for and they should both stay in their role. And what makes it so difficult is, I think there is something to that, I mean, when I get a therapist, I always want a female. Why? I have an easier time talking to females. Why? Because women are different when it comes to that generally, and there's exceptions to the rule. But they've taken this fact that there are definite biological differences and kind of differences in the way the two think to meaning a woman should only be in the kitchen. And that's fucking ridiculous. That is so ridiculous on its face because, there's no reason these things that make women different from men don't have a place in the business world too. And I hate it that is being used as a rationale for putting women into inferior roles. Just because men and women are different doesn't mean one should be in an inferior role.
I'm wondering if this particular one stems from religion in some way. Because all the religions I know tend to think of women as inferior in one way or another.
Well, we are a Christian nation in the sense that Christianity is the largest religion in the world. And of course, as we've seen, in episodes of People's Weekly that we've done with Pastor Mac V, there's definitely schools of thought in Christianity that reject that whole patriarchal thing. But, the fact of the matter is, Christianity is kind of based on this idea. Christianity's attitude towards women, and consequently our attitude towards women as a society largely influenced by Christianity, is that we were in a paradise and everything was perfect. But then the serpent came along and he got Eve to eat the fruit, and he went to Eve because women are weak-minded and can't think for themselves and they can be led astray, which is why we have to keep them shut up in the home. And then she shared the fruit with Adam because women are conniving troublemakers who want to lead us into trouble. So we got to keep them in their place because of that. That's kind of like it's kind of like a thing that Christianity and its institutions, more orthodox institutions, have been built around. So yeah, that's there. And definitely in plenty of other religions, women are placed in a inferior role.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty much the same. Women's places, women are to be silent and to submit to their husbands. Yeah, you can try to twist it any way you want, but that book is really down on women.
Yeah, and to be clear, I just zeroed in on Christianity because that's the religion that dominates our cultural thought in America. And we're talking about fascism in America. So, I was just bringing that home to America and using the religion that kind of dominates in America. And it's really a sick thing that it's built on.
This is nice. The one that pertains most to women is two dudes talking.
Well, I'm afraid that if I start, I won't stop, and this won't be a decent length one.
Go ahead. You got like 10 more minutes.
I mean, we could do this forever. When we start looking at the gender distribution in certain jobs, especially those that are higher paying or have more power, it's about 10% of CEOs, 10 to 16%. It depends on, I'm really going on 2010 to 2015 statistics, because I've actually seen it start dropping. But the higher paying jobs tend to be given to males, or if you want to say even earned by males. But that's a whole other story. I'm not really even looking at the wage gap, just the types of jobs that are available, or even if we look at the gender distribution in who makes our legislation in the country. That is so important that a lot of people don't realize in understanding minority groups. And women are, even though 51% of the population are still a minority group, because they don't have as much say in their own lives. So 19% of the House of Representatives in 2017 are women, and 21% of the Senate this year are women, and that's actually starting to drop from our highest level of 3 years ago. And it's important to understand that, because who is making these laws, especially when it comes to women's bodies? We see this all the time, right? Abortion rights, or wanting to take health care away from specifically women, like not paying for birth control, anything along those lines. Who is making those laws, or who is trying to make those laws? It's always men, whereas women don't even generally get a say. And we've seen this within the Trump administration, especially when they put together these little committees that are looking into quote unquote healthcare. They're always white men. And so they're not looking at it through anybody else's eyes. They're not trying to understand why women get so passionate about their own health care. And when it comes to the transgender ban, you see one of the main reason that Trump had tweeted out was that it was going to cost $8.9 million a year for transgenders in the military, but it costs over $80 million for erectile dysfunction medication in the military. We see this gender segregation, this gender, sexism as a whole, so rampant within the society, no matter what area of the society, from grade school, from socialization, even before schools, going back to how we're socialized with kids' television, all the way through our adult lives. And so it's incredibly rampant. And then you get a president in who talks about pure sexual assault. I grab them by the pussy. It's important to make sure that doesn't get forgotten. The man talks right there about sexual assault, whether they like it or not, that he lets them or he does that to them. And, you're talking about a man who is still being litigated for raping a 14-year-old, yet nobody ever talks about that because we always ignore the victims. Whether they're male or female, we ignore the victims. And you have somebody who have had multiple women come out and talk about the sexual assaults against them, and that didn't stop one individual from voting for him. 53% of white women still voted for this man. So we have to keep that known as well, because women still came out and voted for him, white women.
Well, in Trump's own defense, he was chosen by Jesus.
Yeah, he's the anointed one, so it's all good. You're right on all those points. I think I'm really glad you brought up the whole thing of Trump's whole grab him by the pussy thing. And I've run into this with people who support this president, where they'll say, well, where they say, well, he was talking about grabbing women by the pussy who wanted to be grabbed by the pussy. How does he know that? Because
I'm going to tell you right now, not one woman in the world wants some man to walk up to them and grab them by their pussy. I'm going to tell you right now.
But let's say there's women out there who do. How does he know that that's what they want when he meets them? Because they showed up? Because they're in his godlike presence?
Right.
I mean, what the fuck, dude? And, I'm just gonna add this to the conversation, and I'm gonna stay quiet for the rest of it, because this is a conversation where a woman should be talking more, I feel. So, but for people to think about is, okay, anybody who's listened to People's Radio United and listened to me on People's Radio United knows I'm kind of a bro. I have a little bit of bro in me, and I've been a fraternity vice president, and I'm into guy shit, and I'm kind of a womanizer, and the sexism in this country blows my mind, and horrifies me. Let that sink in.
I'm letting it sink.
On the same subject, well, of course, on the same subject, but going, if we look at the definition again, with rampant sexism, also looking at homosexuality, don't forget that, he signed an executive order for the Religious Liberty Bill that allows for churches to discriminate against anybody that they want. Even protected classes that are not allowed to be discriminated against. That's the whole point. I can say not allowed, meaning that we can take steps, we can take file lawsuits, but within this religious liberty executive order that everybody seems to have forgotten, those steps are no longer there. And that is specifically aimed at the LGBT community. I would throw women in there as well, especially along the lines of abortion and things like that. But we know that this was specifically aimed at the LGBTQ community in order to, promote free speech and religious liberty is what it was called. And it gives relief to companies that object to the mandate for contraception and healthcare. So it allows them to not give birth control or anything along those lines. I mean, this is something that just completely got ignored when it happened. I understand why there's so much stuff that's happening. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Can you explain that to me, though? Where's the logic? Even what is their twisted logic? If you hate abortion... No,
well, they feel as though they...
But wait. If you hate abortion, you don't want abortions to ever happen because it's killing babies. Poor little innocent babies are dying because of abortions, but I don't want to give people birth control.
Oh, there is no logic. The logic is that they care about babies when they're in the womb, but once they're born, they no longer give a shit about them. That's their logic. they don't care about anything other than making sure they put their belief system on other people. That's all it is. There is absolutely no logic to it at all. So by keeping contraception, they believe that birth control is against the Bible. But if that's true, then wouldn't masturbation be against the Bible? Oh, wait, it is according to the Bible. But we never hear anything about that. So again, it goes right into showing that contradictory notion that we see with the genders and the sexes in the United States. It's not just the U.S., but that's what we're talking about here. Where,
but
women
Viagra's
are...
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Women are supposed to, women are there for reproductive reasons, and that's all. Look at what happened over Charlottesville. The first thing that the Daily Stormer did was they printed a fucking article on the woman who was killed, Heather Heyer, and how it's better that she's dead because she was a 32...
Yo, I think I lost everyone for a second. Okay, we're back. So you were saying she was 32 years old?
Right, I was talking about how Heather Heyer was 32 years old, and the first thing that the Daily Stormer went in and published an article about how she deserved to die, she's worthless because she was a 32-year-old without children, and that a woman's job is to reproduce, and that is all. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. And just the fact that they had the gall to do that, which is, of course, what got them, we see in the whole GoDaddy and Google not allowing them to host on their website anymore. But this isn't new. Why is this suddenly happening with them? They've always been like this, the Daily Stormer and any of those sites. But now all of a sudden Google and GoDaddy are like, they're against our terms of service. They've been against your terms of service.
Because they're connected to a blatant terrorist attack that can't be denied now.
Right. And then that brings up, there are plenty of other sites that are doing the exact same thing. There were different subreddits yesterday on Reddit that I was tweeting out the pictures of them celebrating, these different ones that were celebrating. And it was very similar to what the Daily Stormer was saying. And absolutely nothing happened to them on Reddit. So
yeah, I read that totally wrong, because when the terrorist attack happened and then the beating of that man right afterwards, the black man, yes. I was like, they're going to denounce this and say, no, we want our freedom of speech. These people were not with it. First thing, they're cheering, they're celebrating, they're saying people are jealous of this guy for killing a woman, and it's insane.
It is. It's absolutely crazy. And then, you have the president who comes out and doesn't even denounce anything.
Yeah, it's, she was a martyr for the cause, standing up against fascism, which makes her an anti-fascist, y'all. Just like I am, and I've always have been, before it was trendy. But yeah, so anyone else have anything to add on this, the rampant sexism? Oh, you know what? Yeah, and it goes on to gay people as well, as far as the when you read it at the beginning. So real quick, they're trying to roll back the marriage equality laws. They're already saying you can fire gay people for being gay. So it's
that's been in 28 states. In 28 states, it's already legal for that. That was long before this, but they are trying to make it worse.
Yeah. So I mean, there's another one on our list, the rampant sexism. So far, what do we have? 5 out of 5. The United States, out of the 5 shows we've done so far, has passed with flying colors well, not passed, probably failed, I guess, the test for fascism. So we are, so far, 5 out of 5, we're living in a fascist country. Steve predicted they would all be apply, and as I looked at him, I agree with him. So yeah, stay tuned tomorrow. What is tomorrow's show? Anybody have it right there? It's Controlled Mass Media. That can't be in this country. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening.